Sophia stared at the small, perfectly wrapped box in front of her. Her hands trembled not with excitement but a creeping unease. Today was their 10th wedding anniversary. The day she had imagined for years. A day with roses, laughter, maybe even a romantic dinner. Instead, there was a silence that felt heavy, almost suffocating. Mark sat across the living room, sipping wine. That same charming smile she had once fallen for, now sharpened into something she couldn't quite place. "Happy anniversary," he said casually, like nothing unusual was happening. "Thank you," Sophia whispered, forcing a polite smile. But her instincts screamed that something was off. The air was tense. The walls of their home, familiar and comforting for years, suddenly felt like a cage. She picked up the small box. The wrapping was flawless. The bow perfect. Nothing about it looked threatening. Yet, her gut told her otherwise. Slowly, she untied the ribbon and lifted the lid. Inside was a small envelope, gold embossed. Heavy with weight. No flowers, no card. Just a note. She unfolded it carefully, her fingers shaking. "You've been living a lie. Tonight, the truth comes out." Her stomach dropped. Her heart raced. She looked at Mark, but his face was unreadable, calm to calm. Her pulse hammered in her ears. What does this mean?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Mark leaned back in his chair, his casual posture hiding a sharp edge. "Open it, you'll see," he said, his smile polite but chilling. Sophia's hands hesitated. 1,000 thoughts raced through her mind. Could it be some cruel joke? A prank? But no. The way he looked at her, calm, calculated, made her fear it. WASN single quotes D. With a deep breath, she opened the envelope. Inside were photographs. At first, she didn't understand. Then, the images made her freeze, pictures of her alone, at work, at the grocery store, in coffee shops, and with him. But not in happy moments. In moments that felt personal, private, vulnerable. Some images captured mistakes, little embarrassments she had never meant for anyone to see. Others showed intimate details of their life together, moments Mark had secretly recorded. A wave of nausea washed over her. Mark leaned forward. "Do you remember every little secret you've kept from me, Sophia?" His voice was soft, almost teasing. "Tonight, everyone will know." Sophia's world tilted. Her home, her sanctuary, felt like it had been turned upside down. She wanted to scream, to flee, but the walls closed in. She felt a momentary panic, then clarity. No, she would not allow herself to be humiliated. Not by him. Not tonight. Her mind raced. He thought he had the upper hand. He thought he could manipulate her, scare her into submission. But he underestimated her. Sophia had lived through challenges before, years of quiet endurance. And now, something inside her awakened. A slow, deliberate smile curved her lips. She looked at Mark, truly looked at him for the first time in years. The man she had married. The man she had trusted with her life. And suddenly, she saw him for what he really was, a man who thrived on control. "If you want to play games," she said softly, her voice steady, "then maybe I know a few games too." Mark blinked. His smile faltered. A flicker of surprise crossed his eyes. Just for a moment, Sophia's mind was already racing. She would not be a victim. She would not allow years of trust, love, and patience to be trampled. This anniversary, which he had tried to turn into a weapon, would become the night he realized he had misjudged her. She set the photographs aside, carefully, as though handling something fragile and dangerous. "You want everyone to know the truth?" she whispered, almost to herself. "Fine, but I get to tell the story my way." Mark's expression darkened, a hint of unease creeping in. "Be careful, Sophia. You don't know who's listening, or what people will think." She laughed softly. Not the nervous laugh of a frightened woman, but a controlled, chilling laugh that hinted at the storm brewing beneath her calm exterior. "Oh, Mark," she said, "you have no idea." Sophia stood and moved to the window. Outside, the evening sun was fading, casting long shadows across their quiet neighborhood. People walking, dogs, children laughing, neighbors chatting, all unaware of the tension simmering behind her front door. For a moment, she allowed herself to breathe. She would need to be smart, methodical, patient. Revenge was not about anger, it was about strategy. And she had spent years observing, enduring, calculating. Her mind returned to the box, to the envelope, to the photographs. They were intended to break her, to humiliate her. But instead, they had lit a fire. She could almost feel the power shifting. The more he tried to control, the more she realized her strength. Mark had made a fatal mistake. He thought he could scare her into weakness, into submission. But Sophia had learned long ago that the quietest storms often caused the most damage. Her phone buzzed. A message from her sister. "Happy anniversary, Sophia. Dinner tonight?" She smiled. Yes, she would play the part. The perfect, unsuspecting wife. But behind the smile, a plan was forming. Mark's footsteps echoed behind her. "What are you thinking?" He asked. Just thinking, she said, turning to face him with calm eyes. Thinking about how to make tonight unforgettable, he frowned. There was a hesitation in his step. Sophia noticed it. A small crack in his armor. The night stretched ahead, heavy with tension. But Sophia was ready. Ready to take control, ready to turn the tables. She would not be broken. She would not be silenced. And by the end of this anniversary, Mark would understand that the woman he thought he could control was far stronger than he ever imagined. And as the evening deepened, Sophia let the smallest, most confident smile slip across her face. Revenge, she realized, was just beginning. Sophia woke before dawn. The house was quiet, too quiet. Mark was still asleep, unaware that today would be the first day of a plan he could never see coming. She sat at the kitchen table, coffee steaming in her hands, staring at the photographs from last night, each image a reminder of his arrogance, of his belief that she could be scared, controlled, humiliated. She sipped slowly, letting the warmth calm her racing mind. Then she smiled. A slow, calculated smile. She would play the perfect wife. Polite, loving, gentle. He wouldn't suspect a thing. The first step, she decided, was information. She needed to know everything. Every secret he had, every weakness, every habit. She had spent 10 years living beside him. She knew patterns, small routines, little truths that she could use. Her phone buzzed. A text from Mark. Breakfast ready when you are. Don't forget, tonight is special. She typed back quickly, on my way. The calm in her reply masked the storm inside her. She dressed carefully, makeup light, hair perfectly in place. She wanted him to believe nothing had changed, that she was still the same wife he thought he knew. At breakfast, she poured his coffee, smiled, and complimented the way his tie matched his shirt. Mark relaxed. Completely unaware, Sophia made a mental note. Everything was a game now, and she intended to win. Later, while Mark left for work, she stayed behind, pretending to tidy the living room. But her mind was elsewhere, thinking, planning, strategizing. Step 1. Gain allies. She knew the right people could be dangerous or incredibly useful. Mark had a business partner, a few close friends, neighbors who thought they knew everything about their perfect marriage. Each could be used carefully, subtly. Step 2. Gather proof. She would need more than the photographs if she wanted to strike back in a way that left him powerless. Emails, texts, hidden bank statements, anything that could expose his lies or manipulations. Step 3. Patience. Revenge wasn't about rushing. It was about precision, timing, and making him feel every ounce of control slip away. Her first opportunity came sooner than expected. Mark had left his laptop on the kitchen counter, logged in. An accidental mistake or perhaps fate, but Sophia's pulse quickened. She opened the device carefully. Emails, spreadsheets, personal messages, everything she needed. She copied important files onto a secure drive she had hidden in her handbag. As she worked, she felt a surge of power. For the first time in years, she wasn't afraid. She was preparing. She was calculating. She was alive. By midday, she had already pieced together enough to start unraveling his little empire of secrets. Every lie he had told, every manipulation, every whispered threat, it was all there. The doorbell rang. Sophia startled for a moment, then composed herself. It was a neighbor, friendly but nosy, holding a small plate of cookies. Happy anniversary, the woman said brightly. I brought a little treat. Sophia smiled, accepting the plate. Thank you, that's so sweet of you. As the neighbor chatted, Sophia kept the conversation light, polite, engaging, all while mentally noting how easily influence could be gained. Allies could be subtle. Sometimes a smile and charm were enough to plant a seed. After the neighbor left, Sophia returned to her laptop. Step 4. Exposure. Not yet. She needed timing. She needed precision. She would choose the moment when Mark least expected it, and it would be devastating. She paused, looking around her home. The place that had once felt like safety now felt like a battlefield. She thought of last night, of the photographs, of his smug smile. He had tried to scare her. He had tried to control her, but she had a plan. By evening, she was ready for her first move. Nothing dramatic yet, just subtle reminders. A message here, a carefully planted document there. Small shifts designed to make him uneasy, to plant doubt. He would start questioning his own world, his own power. Mark arrived home, tired from work, smiling as he entered. You look lovely, he said, kissing her cheek. Thank you, Sophia replied softly, her smile flawless. Inside, her mind raced. He had no idea. Not yet. Dinner was calm, polite, perfect, but every bite she took, every laugh, was carefully measured. Sophia was testing him, observing, planting seeds. A raised eyebrow here, a subtle comment there. Nothing that would reveal her hand, but enough to make him question the stability of his empire. Later that night, She retired to her bedroom, pretending to read while Mark relaxed on the couch. Her heart was steady. Her plan was moving forward. Each step calculated. Each action deliberate, and as she closed her eyes, a single thought ran through her mind: he will never see me coming. The woman he thought he had broken was already stronger, smarter, and tonight, revenge had quietly begun. Sophia woke to the sound of her alarm, but she didn't need it. Her mind had been racing all night. Every detail of her plan replayed endlessly, evolving with new ideas. She wasn't just reacting anymore. She was controlling the game. Mark was gone to work, blissfully unaware that the woman he thought he could humiliate was already steps ahead. Sophia moved silently through the house, checking her notes. Every email she had copied, every hidden message she had discovered, everything would serve her strategy. She paused at the mirror. Her reflection stared back, calm and composed. The tired eyes of the past were gone. Now there was determination, power, quiet authority. Sophia was no longer just a wife. She was a force. The first move of the day: social manipulation. She knew Mark's friends would be useful if handled correctly. One careless word from the wrong person could plant doubt in his mind. A subtle message, carefully framed, could start to unravel him. Sophia picked up her phone. A few texts later and the seeds were sown. Nothing obvious. Just hints. Casual observations. Questions disguised as curiosity. Did you notice Mark's new project seems off? She typed to a mutual friend. I've been hearing things. Strange things. Could be nothing though. She pressed send and smiled. This was subtle but effective. Tension was invisible, but it was spreading. Mark's perfect image, carefully built over years, was beginning to crack. By mid-morning, she shifted her focus to finances. She had discovered discrepancies in his accounts. Small, almost imperceptible, but enough for her to leverage later. She spent hours analyzing, making notes, tracing patterns. She wasn't just taking revenge. She was building a blueprint. Then came the first real test. Mark's business partner, Jason, called unexpectedly. Sophia answered, polite and sweet. Hi, Jason. What a surprise. Jason sounded hesitant. Hey, Sophia, I just wanted to check in on Mark. Heard some unusual things. Her heart didn't race. Instead, it beat with excitement. Oh, like what? She asked, feigning curiosity. He hesitated, unsure. Just rumors. Could be nothing, of course. Sophia smiled softly. Thanks for telling me. I'll keep an eye out. She hung up and let herself relax. Another subtle seed planted. Another crack in Mark's world forming. By evening, Mark returned home, cheerful and unsuspecting. Dinner's ready, Sophia said, her smile flawless. He relaxed immediately. No suspicion. None at all. But Sophia noticed small changes already. The way he glanced at his phone nervously. The slight twitch in his smile when she mentioned his projects. The cracks were appearing exactly as she had predicted. After dinner, she suggested a movie. Something light, nothing dramatic. But her mind wasn't on the film. It was on her next moves. She wanted him comfortable, relaxed, unsuspecting. Only then could her plans unfold fully. Later, while Mark was in the study, she carefully accessed more of his private files. Hidden emails, financial statements, personal messages. Everything he thought was secure was now under her control. She copied important documents, labeling them meticulously. Each one was a piece of the puzzle she would use to dismantle him. Her phone buzzed. Another friend, another subtle reminder planted. Curiosity, doubt, tension. Everything she did was invisible, imperceptible, but slowly, surely, it was working. Sophia allowed herself a small smile. He would never see it coming. The man who thought he had all the power was beginning to realize that control was slipping. And Sophia? She had never felt more alive. The night ended quietly. Mark, exhausted, went to bed. Sophia stayed up, planning, strategizing, calculating. Every step, every move, precise. Revenge was no longer a thought. It was a mission. And in the dark of the night, Sophia made a vow: he would regret underestimating her. He would regret every attempt to humiliate her. By the time she was done, Mark would understand that the woman he thought was fragile had become untouchable, unstoppable. And UNTAMED. The next morning, Sophia woke with a purpose. Today wasn't just planning, it was action. Mark had left for work, his briefcase heavy, his confidence intact. He thought everything was normal. He thought he was in control. Sophia smiled quietly to herself. Let him believe that. It made the impact later even sweeter. She started with the easiest target, his reputation. Carefully, subtly, she sent a few of the documents she had copied to contacts she knew were influential in his professional world. Nothing outright, just hints, small pieces of evidence that would raise questions. A wrong move here, a whispered suggestion there. By mid-morning, she had already received her first response. A cautious email from a business associate. Are you sure about this? Seems unusual. Sophia's heart raced with satisfaction. The first cracks were forming. Next, she prepared the dinner table. Not for Mark, he wouldn't notice. This was for the image she had to maintain, a perfect wife. Unaware of the chaos she was about to create. Flowers ranged neatly. Candles lit, wine chilled. A facade of domestic perfection. When Mark returned, he immediately relaxed. Everything looks wonderful, he said. He didn't suspect a thing. Sophia smiled. I just thought we could have a nice, quiet evening. Celebrate us, he nodded, oblivious. But she had already set the trap. After dinner, she suggested they review some household finances together. Nothing unusual, just a routine task, she claimed. But as Mark opened his laptop, Sophia guided him toward the discrepancies she had discovered. She said innocently. These numbers don't seem right. Have you noticed anything? Mark glanced at the screen. I don't know. Maybe a minor error. Sophia leaned in, keeping her voice soft, calm. It's probably nothing, but maybe worth checking before it becomes a problem? He nodded, distracted. What he didn't know, Sophia had already copied the critical evidence elsewhere. Every misstep he had ever made, every secret he thought was buried, she had it all. Later that night, she sent a subtle message to one of his closest friends. I've been going through some documents. Mark might not realize this yet. Could be worth a look. Minutes later, another cautious reply. Thanks for letting me know. Strange. Sophia felt a thrill. The first part of her plan was working. Slowly, imperceptibly, Mark's world was beginning to crumble, but she didn't stop there. Sophia knew that revenge wasn't just about humiliation, it was about control, influence, and empowerment. She began sending anonymous tips to minor stakeholders in Mark's projects. Little hints, small details, questions that would lead them to double-check, investigate, and doubt. Mark remained oblivious. He went about his day, confident, unaware that the woman he underestimated was orchestrating his downfall with precision. Sophia moved through her home, performing small household tasks, maintaining the perfect image. Each smile, each casual comment masked the storm she was creating. Every action deliberate, every word calculated. By bedtime, she reviewed her work. Emails sent, contacts alerted, evidence copied, seeds of doubt planted. The first wave of her revenge had been executed flawlessly. Mark fell asleep beside her, tired, unsuspecting. Sophia lay awake, her mind alive with possibilities. Every mistake he had ever made, every secret he had kept, was now leverage, and as she closed her eyes, she whispered to herself, this is just the beginning. The woman he thought he could control had already begun rewriting the rules, and tonight he would sleep unaware that his world was quietly unraveling. Sophia woke to the sound of her alarm, but she didn't need it. Her mind was already racing. Today was critical. She had carefully orchestrated the first wave of her revenge, and now it was time to escalate. The subtle hints, the planted doubts, they were working. But this time, she would push harder. Mark had left for work, completely unaware that the woman he had tried to humiliate was no longer just observing. She was in control. Every detail of his life, every secret, every mistake, she had it all. And today, they would start to cost him. Sophia poured her coffee, savoring the quiet. She reviewed her notes, contacts, emails, photographs, financial discrepancies. Each one a weapon. Each one a piece of the puzzle. She smiled. The thrill of empowerment coursed through her. For the first time in years, she didn't feel trapped. She felt alive, untouchable. Step 1. Escalate suspicion among his professional circle. Sophia carefully crafted emails, leaving just enough information to spark doubt, but not enough to be traced back to her. She had learned that true power came from subtlety, from letting others stumble into the trap themselves. Mark's numbers don't seem right. Perhaps a review is necessary? I heard some unusual activity in one of his projects. Might be worth checking. She pressed send. Already, her mind raced ahead. Questions would arise, conversations would happen. People would start second-guessing him, and he would have no idea where it began. By late morning, Sophia received her first signs of success. A terse message from one of Mark's colleagues. Are you sure about these numbers? Something seems off. She smiled. Perfect. The first tremors in his world. Step 2. Personal exposure. Sophia had accumulated enough evidence from hidden emails, documents, and photographs to hit close to home. She drafted a few messages, carefully framed, that would make certain people in Mark's life question him without revealing her identity. Nothing dramatic yet, just hints, seeds. Meanwhile, she maintained the facade of domestic perfection. Laundry folded, dinner planned, casual smiles, and light conversation. Mark had no idea that beneath the calm, calculating wife he believed he knew, a storm was forming. As afternoon passed, Sophia turned her attention to Mark's personal life. She knew his ego was fragile, built carefully over years of charm and control, and now, cracks were appearing, a missed call here, a cautious email there. Small indicators that people were starting to question him. Sophia carefully tracked each one, noting their responses, their doubts, their hesitations. Every little ripple mattered. Every reaction was a victory. Then came the pivotal moment. Mark returned home early, tired but confident, expecting a quiet evening. Sophia greeted him with a smile, casual and composed, but inside, her mind was alert, calculating. "You seem tense," she said innocently, pouring him a glass of wine. Mark frowned, adjusting his tie. "I don't know what you mean. Work was fine." Sophia smiled softly, "Just checking. Sometimes people notice things you don't. Little inconsistencies, nothing serious." "Of course." Mark blinked, a flicker of doubt crossing his eyes. For the first time, he hesitated, unsure if he had missed something. Sophia's heart leapt with satisfaction. The first cracks in his confidence were appearing. Dinner was calm, polite, every word measured, every gesture deliberate. Sophia allowed him to relax slightly, knowing that the real damage would be invisible. Psychological, cumulative, later. While Mark was in the study, she quietly reviewed the latest responses from her subtle interventions. Her influence was growing, colleagues questioning his work, friends noticing inconsistencies, even distant family members expressing minor concern. Everything was working exactly as she had anticipated, but she didn't stop there. Step 3. Isolation. Sophia knew that power relied not just on exposure, but on making her target feel alone, uncertain. Unable to trust anyone, she subtly contacted a few of Mark's confidants, planting tiny doubts in their minds, careful, casual questions, innocent observations. By evening, tension was thick in the house. Mark, normally confident and commanding, seemed restless. He checked his phone more often, glanced nervously at emails, muttered under his breath about strange messages and weird interactions. Sophia, ever composed, simply smiled and continued her evening routine, laundry folded, dishes washed, lights dimmed for ambience, perfect wife, unseen manipulator. The duality thrilled her. She had never felt more powerful. As night fell, Sophia sent one final anonymous message for the day, carefully crafted to maximize psychological impact. "People are talking. You might want to double-check everything, even the things you think are secure." She watched from the kitchen window as Mark paced the yard briefly before entering, frowning, muttering to himself. The first visible signs of panic were emerging. Her plan was working, slowly, invisibly. He was beginning to lose control. Finally, Sophia prepared for bed. She joined Mark, casually conversational, letting him believe all was normal, but her mind raced ahead, calculating the next steps. She had shifted the balance. He was reacting, vulnerable, confused, and she held all the cards. Before sleep, she whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning. By the end, he will realize he never truly knew me." And as the house settled into silence, Sophia felt a quiet thrill of empowerment. The woman he thought he could manipulate, scare, and humiliate had become unstoppable. Every move she had made had been precise, every reaction measured, and by tomorrow, the next wave would strike. Bigger, sharper, more irreversible. Mark may have thought he had the upper hand, but Sophia was no longer the woman he once controlled. She was the storm he could never predict. Asterisk. The house was quiet that morning, too quiet. Sophia woke before dawn, a sense of anticipation thrumming in her chest. Today would be the culmination of months of planning, observation, and subtle manipulation. Every small step she had taken, every seed of doubt, every whispered question, every calculated message had brought her to this point. Mark slept soundly, unaware that his carefully constructed world was about to unravel. Sophia sat on the edge of the bed, sipping her coffee, watching him through the dim morning light. He looked peaceful, oblivious, but she saw through the mask. She saw the cracks he had begun to show, the anxiety he could no longer hide. Her plan had one final step: exposure. Not just whispers and hints, but undeniable truth. The evidence she had gathered, emails, photographs, financial records, messages, would leave him powerless. There would be no denial, no hiding, no manipulation left to regain control. Sophia dressed carefully, as always, maintaining the facade of the perfect wife, hair tidy, makeup subtle, a warm smile ready for him. When he awoke, she greeted him with normalcy. "Good morning," she said cheerfully, pouring his coffee. "Morning," Mark replied, still half asleep, his tone casual. He had no idea what awaited him. Sophia's phone buzzed. A message she had scheduled days ago. It was from one of Mark's business partners. "Mark, we need to meet. Urgent." Everything seems off. She smiled faintly. Step 1 was already in motion. After breakfast, she suggested they go for a drive, a simple, domestic outing. "Just some fresh air," she said. A little break from everything, Mark agreed, unsuspecting. He never questioned her motives. During the drive, she subtly mentioned the work discrepancies. "You've been stressed lately," she said softly. "Maybe it's time to double-check everything." Mark's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing. "I've checked. Everything's fine." Sophia tilted her head. "Innocent. Are you sure? Sometimes the smallest things get missed. You wouldn't want something minor to blow up, would you?" He didn't answer. Silence fell, heavy and tense. Sophia's pulse quickened, but she remained composed. The first waves of panic were already hitting him. Back at home, she began step 2, personal exposure. She had arranged for Mark's closest confidence friends, colleagues, and even extended family to receive carefully packaged evidence anonymously. Photographs, messages, and documents that would reveal not just his professional missteps, but the ways he had tried to control, manipulate, and humiliate her. By late afternoon, messages began flooding in. Sophia read them silently, carefully. The subtle tension she had sown now blossomed into undeniable concern. Mark's allies were questioning him. Doubt was spreading. Mark paced the living room, phone in hand, muttering under his breath. This can't be happening," he said. Panic flashed in his eyes for the first time. Sophia watched calmly from the kitchen, a serene smile on her lips. Step 3, confrontation. She had planned this moment carefully. Not for him, but for herself. She wanted him to understand, finally, that he had underestimated her. That the woman he had tried to humiliate was far stronger, smarter, and more powerful than he could imagine. "Mark," she called softly, "we need to talk." He froze, sensing the shift in her tone. Something was different, something he couldn't place. Sophia gestured for him to sit. He obeyed, wary, tense. "You've tried to control me," she began calmly, "to humiliate me, to scare me. Tonight, I could have played along. Pretended to be broken, pretended to be afraid, but I didn't. Because I'm not afraid, and I'm not broken." Mark's lips parted, but no words came. "I've been patient," she continued. "I've observed, I've waited, and I've prepared. Everything you thought was safe, everything you thought was secret is now exposed. Your lies, your manipulations, your control, gone." He shook his head. Disbelief etched into his face. "Sophia, this isn't possible." She reached for the envelope on the table. Inside were copies of the messages, emails, photographs. Evidence enough to destroy his credibility, his reputation, and the illusion of control he had maintained for years. "You wanted everyone to know the truth?" she said softly, letting the weight of the words sink in. "Here it is, all of it. And it starts with you realizing that the woman you thought you could control has already won." Mark's hands trembled. The calm, composed man she had married was gone. Panic replaced confidence. The realization hit him. His world was crumbling, and he had no idea how to stop it. Sophia stood, moving toward the window. Outside, the neighborhood went on, oblivious. Children played, neighbors waved, but inside, a quiet storm raged, and she was at the center of it. Fully in control. "You see, Mark," she continued, voice calm but commanding. "Revenge isn't about anger. It's about strategy, patience, and understanding your opponent, and I understood you completely." Tears of frustration and shock formed in his eyes. "Sophia, I know," she interrupted gently. "You don't get to speak, not yet. You need to understand the consequences of underestimating me, of thinking I was powerless, of thinking a wife couldn't outsmart, outmaneuver, and rise above the one who tried to bring her down." He sank into the chair, defeated. The weight of his actions, his arrogance, and his underestimation of Sophia bore down on him. And for the first time, he realized he had lost everything he thought he controlled. Sophia moved closer, her voice softening almost tenderly. "I'm not done yet," she said. "But today, you understand the truth. The woman you thought you could humiliate is unstoppable." She walked to the door, pausing briefly. Mark looked up, eyes wide with fear and awe. "And Mark, this," she said over her shoulder. "This is just the beginning of a life where I choose, where I control, where I rise. You will no longer dictate my world, because I am free, and I am stronger than you ever imagined." She left the room. Silence fell. Mark slumped in the chair, powerless, shocked, and utterly humbled. Sophia walked through the house. Now hers in every sense, not just her home, but her life. The years of quiet endurance, the pain, the humiliation, everything had led to this moment. She was empowered, victorious, and unbreakable, and as night settled outside, Sophia knew one thing: she had not only avenged herself, but she had reclaimed her life. Every fear, every doubt, every insult had been transformed into strength. The woman Mark had tried to suppress had risen, and nothing would ever hold her down again. Asterisk, can you imagine being in Sophia's shoes, betrayed, humiliated, and yet unstoppable? Her revenge is just the beginning, and the next chapter will shock you even more. Don't scroll away, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment of her journey. Comment below what you would do. If someone tried to ruin your life, your story might inspire the next twist.